If you're watching this screencast, you should be working on scavenger hunt, center number 2, and at your seat you should have a green handout, a highlighter, and a writing utensil. So if you don't have that, you need to pause it and go find those two things. We're going to be starting our work in Google Classroom. You're going to go to a document that says center number 2, helping verbs, scavenger hunt, and it looks pretty much the same as what you have. This is just to view. So all of your work needs to be done on the green paper that's in front of you. So do all of your highlighting and writing by hand on that paper, because if you do it on this document, we're not even going to look at it. Now, you should start by writing your 23 helping verbs. If you don't know your 23 helping verbs, then I want you to pause the screencast, get your notebook out, and go look them up and write them down. Then I want you to get your highlighter and go highlight these 5 words: was, did, had, would, and were. These are the 5 helping verbs that we're going to focus on in this particular lesson. So I want them highlighted so that you can go back and find them after the screencast is over. Now, the reason we're having you do this on your Chromebook is a very cool tool called Control F, which is the Find tool. So I want you to hit your Control key and the letter F, and what should pop up here is a little box that you can type words in where it says Find in Document. This is a great editing tool when you're working on an essay. If you want to see if you've used a word over and over again, you can type it in here and it'll highlight it and show you how many times you've used it, and then you can go back and change it. So for our purposes, we're going to use it to find these 5 verbs, and decide if they're being used as helping verbs, meaning that they're in front of another verb, helping complete its thought, or if they're by themselves, whether they're action or linking. So let's type the word was in here. I want everyone to do this with me, so pause if you need to. And it's going to show you that was is used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. The 7th time is in our list. So we're going to actually, working within the paragraph, have to do this 6 times what we're about to do. Okay? So the first thing let's do is go underline every time that we see the verb was. So I see it here, I see it here, 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 and I know there's one down here. It's not on my screen, but you can do that on yours. So you should highlight was 6 times. Now we have to look at how it's used within the sentence to decide, is it being used as an action verb, a linking verb, or a helping verb? Ares was the god of war and battle. If this is a helping verb, then after the word was, I should see another verb. And I see the word the and God. Was, and you can't the, and you can't God. So it looks to me like was, it's by itself. So now I have to decide, is it a linking verb? Is it linking something back to Ares? Or is it an action verb? Is it all by itself? And it says Ares was the god. Sounds like God is going back and renaming Ares, so it sounds like it's a linking verb. So I want you to label this LV. Oh, that's horrible writing. I'm going to get a different pen. LV. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to go to the next time that Ares is used. It says Ares was so excited about battle that he would come down from heaven and fight. So I'm looking after the verb was so. Can you so? That's not an action. Was excited. Can you excited? That's not an action. I know that excited is a feeling. It's a description of how someone feels. So I think excited is going back here and describing Ares, which means that was is working by itself as a linking verb. So I'm going to label it LV. Let's go down to, well, actually, let's do all these together. It says, although Ares was so fond of war. So I see the word was. I'm going to look after was to see, is there another verb after it? Was so. You can't so. Was fond. You can't fond. Those are not verbs. Fond means to be, I guess, affectionate of or to like something. Ares was fond of war. So it sounds to me, again, like fond is describing Ares' feelings, which means was is being used as a linking verb. He was not as successful as Athena. Now, I remember talking in class that if we see not, sometimes not can come between a helping verb and a main verb. So let's see if that happens here. It says he was not as successful as Athena. So I'm going to skip not and say he was as. As doesn't sound like a verb. You can't as, so that's not a helping verb there. How about successful? Can you successful? That's not an action. Successful sounds like a describing word. It's describing how he was. So in this case, again, we've got was being used as a linking verb. Once during a great war, Ares was fighting against the Greeks. So was is my verb. I'm going to look at the word after it to see, is that another verb? Fighting. Can you fight? Sounds like an action. So if that's the case, I'm going to underline both of these verbs. I'm going to label was as a helping verb and fighting as an action verb. So you're going to continue doing the verbs was, and then you're going to go back and do the rest of these verbs. You're going to go back into here and control F and do, what was it? Did. And you'll see that did is here 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So 3 times in your paragraph. If you want to, you can go underline them right now since I just found them with you. And then you'll know. And then you're going to do the same thing with the verb had. Okay, had is used 1, 2, 3 times. Sometimes it's going to be a helping verb. Sometimes it's going to be an action verb. Had and did will never, and would will never be linking verbs because they were not on our linking verbs list. So make sure you're using your notebook and do your best.